Farron, the fallout from DOGE is continuing. We're getting reports now that they realize they have fired too many people, and this problem is compounded by the fact that they're requiring a Trump loyalty essay for all new hires that they will faithfully serve the executive branch. So deeply concerning that, one, you have fired too many people, you've lost this intelligence, and then you're trying to hire people back, but you're requiring this love letter to Trump.
Yeah, we've got right now, I think, 100,000 openings in the federal government. And for some of them, they are trying to bring back the people who knew what they were doing, right? Like, oh, we fired you, yeah, and it was fun, and we laughed at you, but please come back. A lot of those folks are saying, absolutely not. I've either already found another job, or I don't want to just be on the chopping block again 2 months from now when you guys change your mind, because Trump always chickens out, changes everything. So they don't want the chaos. They don't want that, uncertainty. So a lot of these fired people are not willing to come back. And then, as you said, the more hilarious and also more terrifying part is this essay. There was a memo from the Office of Personnel Management that said any new applicant, no matter what you're going to do, if you're going to be the person emptying the trash cans or if you're going to be running a department, you have to submit a 200-word essay on 4 different topics. 3 of them kind of normal, right? Like, how much do you love the Constitution, right? That's great. It's not really something you need to do, but sure, it's there. But it's the 3rd question where they say, how will you faithfully execute or help Trump faithfully execute his executive orders? Basically, what do you offer to Donald Trump? Tell us in 200 words. And if we don't like your answer, you don't even get called in for an interview. These are loyalty tests is what they are. And that is what they are expecting of all of these 100,000 new people they have to bring into the government.
Well, and this is upending over 100 years of federal workers being nonpartisan, all the way back to Garfield, President Garfield, when the ramifications of his assassination were that they went to a non-political, merit-based system. And that is what we've been striving for the last 150 years. Maybe not always successful, but that's what we've been trying. The heads at the top will change, but merit will keep people and federal workers in their spots. This is upending that and making it a spoils system that you get to replace everybody when your new party and your new president comes in, and the brain drain is truly incredible. Not to mention the loss of morale that we're seeing from inside reporting from office workers, because they're being asked to cover double shifts. They're being asked to cover these vacancies. More is being asked for less. And this is the federal government. This is not a business on the verge of bankruptcy that's trying to spread their resources thin. This is the federal government doing this, which is deeply terrifying for everybody.
Yeah, and the administration can't even hire anybody until next month. I think July 15th is the date that their hiring freeze expires. So right now, even with all these people they're banking up to call for interviews, they can't even bring them in for another month because of the restrictions they put on themselves. So we are still looking at least 35 more days, however long, of an understaffed federal government. And I think you bring up a great point about the merit-based system. We don't care what the politics of these people are, nor should we. Their politics should not impact the job that they're doing, because they're not there to execute Donald Trump's executive orders. Their job is to go in there. If they're working for the IRS, they crunch the numbers. If they're working for other departments, it's paperwork, it's phone calls, things like that. These are not partisan jobs. They don't have any executive orders to execute. That's done by the top brass at these departments, typically DOJ. Those people are partisan, sure, they're appointed by Trump. Everybody else, it doesn't matter. But they're going to pack it with these MAGA loyalists, because that's straight out of Project 2025. This is exactly what Project 2025 called for, and these are the people we'll be left with. And if the next administration comes in and doesn't purge all these people, they could be in a position to hamstring the next Democratic president.
Well, and we're seeing his appointments getting more and more desperate. There's the reporting of the 22-year-old, the intern in charge that he tried to put over domestic terrorism that had, we were talking about this before the show, it appears was a grocery stocker before he rose to this lofty position, with the only achievement that we could discern is that he helped the Trump campaign, help the president get elected. And then, of course, he's appointed a former felon who has been in prison for substantial periods of his life in charge of the Bureau of Prisons, deputy director. Interestingly, on his website, in his official biography, it says while in prison, he learned about Christianity and God and was mentored by white-collar criminals. So apparently that's the qualifications this man has. The first person in the Bureau of Prisons history to have been in one of the Bureau of Prisons facilities.
I could see, not with this guy, but if you actually took somebody who did get reformed and didn't need a pardon from Donald Trump that says, listen, I've been in prison. I know the horrid conditions. I know what needs to be improved. Somebody like that running the Bureau of Prisons would actually be beneficial, I think. Not this guy. However, I will say, due to the fact that he's been in prison, that actually makes him the only member of Trump's cabinet that's actually qualified for the position they're in. He has more experience in his field than any of these other people Trump has picked. So I don't know, good for him, I guess. But Fugate, the 22-year-old, that one is terrifying. This guy has no political experience other than working on Trump's very weird, unorthodox 2024 campaign. He worked at a grocery store. He cut grass for a while after he left the grocery store. Deeply unqualified, unserious people, which people can see from Fugate's official government picture where he's got his weird little eyebrow raised, like, I'm better than you. Just the most punchable face I've ever seen. But this is what we've come to expect, unfortunately, because qualified people don't want to work in this administration. There was a story out on Monday morning from NBC that detailed how the Defense Department is interviewing qualified people to fill those vacancies on Hegseth's staff, and they're all turning down the jobs because nobody wants to be a part of this. At least nobody that knows what they're doing and knows how things are supposed to work wants to be a part of any of this. And that is not a good sign for the next 4 years.
Well, especially when, as we've reported before, with Hegseth, you could be subject to illegal wiretaps and surveillance. The loyalty test is not just the 200-word essay that you have to write. It's the fact that you will be surveilled by the administration, and that any time there's a leak, and there's always leaks, particularly with Hegseth's people, you're going to be subject to wireless taps and all sorts of terrible things to determine whether you're truly loyal or not.
Yeah. And I think it is funny you bring up the leaks because obviously that story about nobody wanting to work for Hegseth was leaked by the very few people who are still working for Hegseth.
Well, I think this is an interesting area. I mean, we're seeing these reduction in force notices being rescinded by an email within 24 hours. You're fired today, tomorrow you get an email saying, no, just kidding, come back to work. And people, the morale is being described as a funeral by people who have returned back because they don't know. Again, as we've talked about before, the one benefit of a federal job as an employee is certainty, is that you have a job, and as long as you don't commit a crime or do something awful, you have that job. And as your merit dictates, you rise up in the program. That's not the case anymore for a lot of these folks because they can just take a chainsaw to the department or decide that they're restructuring. They're doing it all across the federal government, and we're seeing unqualified, deeply unserious people in charge of these departments.